word do you take?
I see these pictures tonight, and I think, boy, the party of women is really covering itself in glory tonight. I mean, I don't understand why the American left falls in love with the worst people. You've got a gang-banging, human trafficking, wife-beating illegal alien, and a United States senator in a ludicrous display of energy is in El Salvador having Mai Tais and Yahtzee. I do not get it. I do not understand why the left takes on the heroes.
The part of this,
I don't get it.
I think, look, I'm not.
He did have due process. Everything we know about him is documented because he did go through the court systems. He was stopped for trafficking. His wife did file these domestic violence charges against him. He was arrested with MS-13 members with a roll of cash that had the eyes and the ears and the mouths of the presidents erased, which is an MS-13 markings. This is all non-disputed.
So nothing you're talking about
doesn't stop halfway.
But I'm saying he already got his due process and he got a deportation order.
No.
So
the process isn't finished because the judge told them not to do it. So due process doesn't stop when you like the outcome. It's a whole process. So that's why we have
what you guys are doing. Like when they side with the criminals, it's due process, and when they side against the criminals, suddenly they do.
I've been giving this a lot of thought because I want to actually make sure the things that I come up here and argue, I actually believe in. And so I was thinking, I was like, am I just against this because Donald Trump is saying? I'm not.
I really admire that.
I'm not. But the thing that makes me better than the criminal is that I treat them with humanity and dignity despite of what they have done. And that when their judgment is placed on, then they have to live with it. But I cannot assign judgment to people because I don't like something. We have a system of law, and I would hope that the same due process that I received, that everyone's received. That's what makes our country.
Because you are an American citizen, you get more due process.
that is what makes our country wonderful. Is because it's for people in this land.
No, you know what, Batia, except the one the Democrats are trying to enforce.
I think you are right. Hold on, you're actually right to a degree that in this particular instance, he is going through an immigration process. But even in that process, which is largely administrative, it's not a jury situation, it's not as lengthy and as detailed, it's the standard is not beyond a reasonable doubt, it's the preponderance of evidence. Even by that standard, they did not, according to several judges, give him that process. So they didn't even give him a truncated process.
They sent him to the wrong country. But in any other country he could be sent to, they could put him in prison, and they probably will, because he's a wife beater, and that's where he belongs.
Look, I
am not Salvadorian, I'm Mexican, but for Salvadorians and for Nayib Bukele, a putazos. That man that got deported to CCOT no es inocente. He's not a little angel. He has freaking Mata tattoos. And for the freaking people who live in the United States who are demanding for us to try to go get this man back, if he has an MS-13 tattoo, that means the gang saw him kill another person so that he was able to get that tattoo. This is how ignorant you guys be.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video. So in this clip from CNN, we're going to watch Scott Jennings absolutely destroy this whole panel, especially this woman that you see right here. She is a sports journalist, and especially after watching this clip right here, she definitely needs to go back to just sticking to sports because she's embarrassing. But anyway, let's get into the clip.
The president of El Salvador also tweeted this that I find fascinating. He says, Abrego Garcia miraculously risen from the death camps and torture, now sipping margaritas with Senator Van Hollen in a tropical paradise of El Salvador. I mean,
that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, are they at a continental breakfast? Like, what is happening? I'm not even trying to be funny.
I know.
The very first thing I noticed was like, that was not what I expected.
But let's be real about what's happening here. I mean, this is propaganda, because the other propaganda of the whole situation is that this is a hellhole. They were literally telling us the other day that it
also, she's admitting that what the left was pushing as far as he's going to a prison camp, like a concentration camp, was propaganda. She just admitted that, right? But this was El Salvador, the president of El Salvador, combating y'all's propaganda is what he's showing here. He's perfectly fine and alive. People were saying that this guy was no longer alive.
that it was a hellhole. You know who called it a gulag? the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. So I don't know. Whose word do you take?
I see these pictures tonight, and I think, boy, the party of women is really covering itself in glory tonight. I mean, I don't understand why the American left falls in love with the worst people. You've got a gang-banging, human-trafficking, wife-beating illegal alien, and a United States senator in a ludicrous display of energy is in El Salvador having Mai Tais and Yahtzee. I do not get it. I do not understand why the left takes on the heroes people like that. I don't get it.
I think look,
I'm not allegedly in there somewhere. I'm just wondering.
He is a Democrat United States senator.
I don't think this is an issue of we know everything we need to know about this individual, right? But I do think that the idea that the administration continues to call him a terrorist and a gangbanger, knowing full well that those things are very much in dispute, is part of the story. And separately from that, as we just were talking about, the circuit court judge says it doesn't matter. He was sent to another country to be put in a prison that, let me just play for you, because I think it's a good encapsulation of what this prison is. This is what Ezra Klein said. You can see the pictures there, but let me just play what Ezra Klein has said about why this prison and sending people there is so significant for democracy and the rule of law.
The emergency is here. The crisis is now. Maybe not to you, not yet, but to others, to real people whose names we know, whose stories we know. The President of the United States is disappearing people to an El Salvadoran prison for terrorists. It is a prison that does not intend to release its inhabitants back out into the world.
Good.
It is a prison where the only way out, in the words of El Salvador's Justice Minister, is in a coffin.
The El Salvadorans said that the only way out of this prison is in a coffin. I mean, when you do that, you should know pretty surely that the person you're sending there deserves to be imprisoned for life until death. I don't know.
Half of the people that they've sent there have no arrest record. So to be comfortable with the fact that those people, that is potentially the rest of their lives, you can't be cool with that. Like, that's not how you're supposed to adjudicate punishment in this country. If he is all of the things that you say he is.
But it's not in this country. It's in El Salvador. However El Salvador decides to handle the criminals in their country is up to them. Matter of fact, they went from having the highest murder rate per capita in El Salvador to having the lowest murder rate per capita in El Salvador. Sounds like what they're doing is working. But what they're doing over there doesn't have anything to do with America. However they decide to punish their criminals is up to El Salvador. I mean, that's just the way that it is. I don't care how they handle their criminals. We got our own issues to worry about in this country. So if you come into this country and you get deported, whether it be to El Salvador, Venezuela, Mexico, wherever you go to, and your own government, your own law enforcement agency decides to send you to prison, that's on them. It doesn't have anything to do with Americans, period.
Then let it all play out properly in the American court system. And then if you want to send them there. But I think half of the people that they're deporting, you're better off literally putting them on a raft and pushing them out into the ocean than sending them to that place.
And I didn't realize the law was only
That's insane. No, they don't have to go through the American court system to go to prison in El Salvador. If they came into this country illegally, if they have a deportation order and they're told to go back to their country and they're deported, that's it. The responsibility is over as soon as they cross the border into their native country. United States does not have any more responsibility over that individual anymore. Whatever happens to them, whether they end up in prison or they get their liberty or whatever, that's up to the El Salvadorian government. They don't have to go through the American court system. The only court system or due process that they have to go through is proving that you have a legitimate asylum and you're going through the legal process. But if you're an illegal immigrant, you came into this country illegally, you crossed the border without going through the port of entry, there's no record of you. You're allegedly a criminal. You have, a record of crime in this country before you even get your green card and citizenship. You have to get deported. That's the crazy thing about this guy here. Not only did he come into this country illegally, and let's just put the whole MS-13 thing to the side, he was in this country illegally. And while he was in this country, allegedly he was beating on his wife. She put a restraining order on him. There was other crimes that he was alleged of committing. So before you even get your green card and your citizenship, you're already committing crimes in this country. I feel like that's enough justification to deport your ass right then and there. Forget being an MS-13 gang member. You were committing crime before you even got your legal residency status. When you're going through the immigration process, whether you're seeking asylum or you have a court date or you got your green card or you're in the process of getting your citizenship, you're technically on probation. You're technically on probation. You're basically having to prove to the United States government that you are a civilized individual. And during that process, during that phase, if you committed crimes like assaulting your wife, oh yeah, you should definitely be deported. You basically violated your probation. It's just like when you're 16 and you get your permit to drive. You don't have your driver's license yet, but before you get your driver's license, you have your permit. That permit, you're technically on probation. You can't get no speeding tickets. You can't be caught doing nothing illegal. And if you are caught doing something illegal, you get pulled over or you do something, you're going to get your license revoked. So it's the same thing here. So you committed a crime while you were in this country. Forget that you were allegedly a MS-13 affiliate. You violated the probation, in my opinion. So you should get deported. But anyway, let's get back to this nonsense.
For perfect people. I didn't realize that's how we did things here. I'm not talking about people who commit actual crimes that we can prove, but if we're always putting this up against some purity test to say that, like, hey, because we think you might have done this, and again, I realize you're levying serious charges, but like the law is not supposed to be about a purity test. It's supposed to be about what can you actually prove that someone has done.
I actually am not even all that worried about all the things that we have found out in the wake of the investigations into this guy. What I am worried about is that, and I'm going to grant you, he has a withholding order and he should not have gone to El Salvador.
And they admitted it was a mistake.
But even if you grant that, he has an adjudicated deportation order, and you have Democrat public officials falling all over themselves trying to get him back here without thinking through the next step, which is he's literally going to be deported somewhere else.
But not to
But
a
my
prison.
suspicion is when they bring him back, they're going to try to keep him here. That's the next part of the
I want to
we
move
have
on.
degrees of things, right? There's a different punishment for a speeding ticket versus a different punishment for something else. So you're saying that what he has done, which is okay,
come to the country illegally.
Okay, so he deserves to be in an El Salvadorian prison.
He deserves to be deported.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. No one is debating that.
Radical agreement, Scott Jennings, the president of El Salvador.
I mean, El Salvador government is the one that sent him to the prison. I mean, he got deported, and El Salvador said, you know what? Yeah, there's allegations of you being a member of MS-13, so we're gonna lock you up. El Salvador decided to do that. No, they're not getting deported to a prison because they came into this country illegally. They're just getting sent back. They're getting sent back. And if El Salvador is accusing you of being a gang member when you show up to the border, because this is what they're doing, right? Most of these gang members are fleeing El Salvador because of what El Salvador is doing, right? Which is locking up everybody. If you are a gang member and you're part of MS-13, El Salvador is not playing games. They're locking everybody up. So some of these people done found their way to other parts of the country. So whenever they get deported back to El Salvador after coming into another country illegally, and El Salvador decides to lock you up, then that's on them. That's on them. We don't have anything to do with that. We do not have anything to do with that. So these people want to control how another country handles their own citizens and the criminals in their own country. They're basically telling El Salvador, when we send people back to your country, you have to let them free. You have to give them their liberty. Or you have to let them go through the American justice system first, and they have to be found guilty in this country, and then you can put them in prison in El Salvador. I mean, and these people are silly. Because just like Scott Jennings says, when he comes back, if he comes back, and the Democrats bring him back into this country, he's getting deported again. Where is he going to go? What country are you going to send him to? Nobody's going to take him, especially with the allegations that he has. So what's the alternative? He stays in America? And if he stays in America, is he getting his freedom in America, or is he going to jail in America? Right? Because there's three options, it sounds like. You come back to America and you go to jail in America. Like, you're not finna just be free when you come back into this country, especially with all the stuff that this guy is alleged of doing. So that's one option. You bring him back, he goes to jail in America. Or you bring him back and you send him to a different country. What country are you going to send him to? That's option number 2. And option number 3 is you send him back to El Salvador, to his own country that he is a citizen of. And you let El Salvador decide what they do with him. So what options do they have? I mean, which ones are they going to select? Oh, no, let's just bring him back and let him free and go back home to Maryland, to his happy family. That's what the Democrats want. That's what they want. His people are insane. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down below. Let's talk about this video in the comment section. Leave your opinions down there. Hit the like button as well, guys. It really helps the channel out. And, of course, if you are brand new, consider hitting subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.